to 6. It's time for Wolo, friends, on Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo. Look up on the wall. There on the wall. Under the ball. Behind the door. There's a crack in the mirror. Somewhere there's a hole in the window. I tell you they not to worry. Tell me do you think not to worry? They tell me you're never there.
Good Monday morning. Snow's melted. Come on out and play. That's what I say. We had lots of play over the weekend. That is for sure. Tigers, hold on. Win. Very scary. They went up 18. I think, Bryant, they thought the game was over.
I thought the game was over, Dave.
I did too. At the half, they're up 14, and you know you can't keep it up. And Michael Schwartz is a good coach. I think that team is actually, as a program, is slightly better. I chatted with their athletic director before the game, though, and he made the point: if we, except for R.J. Felton, who stayed there all 4 years, has almost 1,500 points now. Most of the time, if a player is good, they're going to get snatched up by an ACC team. I'll give you the case in point. There was an all-conference player, about a 6'8" forward a couple of years ago. I can't remember his name. He went to Virginia.
That's right.
They had a guard, long hair, from Little Rock, Arkansas. Really good player. He was there 1 year. Gone. And that's tough when you're in the ACC and you're not a brand name in basketball. You are to a certain extent in football. There is a more traditional sense about East Carolina football than there is basketball. They don't draw that well. I mean, it's a little ballpark, so if they get in people, it's loud. But it's just not the same, and so it's tough. And I think Schwartz is doing a decent job. He's a Rick Barnes disciple. He was his defensive coordinator at Tennessee for 5 years. So that's his calling card, and he likes to slow the pace down a little bit, and that's what they did in the second half. The flaw with Memphis, and if you're up to this task, I got a good one for you. Let's take a look at the top 25 teams. And I would love to know how many top 25 teams have a negative ratio. This is a little barometer for me that I've used for years. I don't think many people really buy into it. Maybe we'll ask Mike DeCourcy about that. We're going to ask a little bit about wins above bubble. That's a new analytic. Like, I can get what is offensive efficiency, what you do per 100 possessions.
That's right.
That's fairly easy to figure out. But wins above bubble must be like wins above replacement or in baseball or something. But we'll find that out. And then did you see this new deal called My NIL Pay? So this is a new site. It's a national site where this guy gets the best players. Well, all players really, but valuates them. There's like 500,000 Division I and II, maybe even 3 college athletes of all sports on there, and he's valued each one. Haggerty is the number 6 basketball valuation. He's the 36th overall.
Whoa.
So you can go to this website and give money, and they'll send you back his signature and some other I'm not sure exactly, digital stuff.
Interesting.
You can donate from anywhere from $20 to $5,000. And the athlete gets 90% of it. This dude is getting 10% of it. It's an interesting thing to me. But he's number 6 overall, number 6 hoops, number 36 overall. What do you think his valuation is?
Oh, I have no idea, but it's going to be high if he's that high. Number 36 in all sports. That's incredible. Yeah, it's something crazy.
1.7 mil.
Holy cow! Good for him.
Yeah. I'll ask what he thinks about that. It was, listening to Josh Pastner and Greg and Eli earlier, this thing struck me too, and I'm glad they brought it up. We'll ask Mike about this too. The Rick Barnes comments about Chaz Lanier, when he designed a play for him, he didn't run the play. In other words, he got the ball, didn't shoot it. And Rick Barnes pulled him out of the game and said, if you don't do what I'm paying you for, or what you're getting paid for, you're going to sit here with me. Basically, he did. He said to him, this is what we're paying you for. Wow. That's where we are with all of this stuff. It's definitely an interesting time. 2-5, that's your record so far. We still got one more game tonight in the NFL playoffs. I was 3-4, so both of us under 500. The only game we had really different was the Denver-Buffalo game. Buffalo crushed them. The only compelling game so far in the playoffs was last night. And the Washington Commanders, are they not the luckiest team in the NFL? Now, I think it comes to an end when they play Detroit, even though Detroit's banged up. This cannot continue, especially not in Detroit. But, I mean, since the they beat the Bears with that Hail Mary.
That's right.
Since that time, they have just been the luckiest team. Last night, Baker Mayfield's got a fumble at his own 13, and they doink one off the crossbar to win the game. Doink it off the crossbar. When's the last time you saw that? Now, I give their defense credit because Tampa should have scored a touchdown when they settled for a field goal to tie the game. But come on. How lucky can the Commanders be? That does come to an end, doesn't it?
You got to imagine. But you're right. I mean, ever since that Chicago game, they win off of, sheer luck. And since then, they've been rolling. That's what they needed. And the Bears, unfortunately, on the other side, that broke them.
They've had like 3 or 4 games that were bear-like. They just...
But that's what started. That felt like that was the start. That was where the magic began, really on both sides. And they've been rolling. The Bears, that kind of broke their back.
Yeah.
Bears, Marcus Freeman. Dave, you want Marcus Freeman?
No, I don't. I want.
You want Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. Yeah. That's what I want.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. It made me think about what Mike Keith said to us last week. He thinks Ben Johnson is a risk. Yeah. He'd rather see Mike Vrabel, who ended up getting the New England job, or even Pete Carroll at 72 or 73. I don't know about that either. But I have to call Mike Keith today because he's now the voice of the Vols, or will be next year. And I hope he's still on with us about the NFL till the end of this particular season. So we will talk NCAA hoops with Mike DeCourcy. That comes your way in the next segment. And we will talk with John Thompson about the Penn State-Notre Dame game, the Texas-Ohio State game, the championship game. I do want to throw this out. I did high school football games for over 15 years with a gentleman named Don Freese, who I think is still analyzing college football in the Jonesboro market. For a guy who I think worked here, Bud Schroppel. He's on his show. And I called him. I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years. He's now retired from his regular job. He's still doing some radio. Because he was an assistant coach on those great Colorado teams that came close to a national championship one year, then won the national championship the next year. He was with the head coach, Bill McCartney, who passed away over the weekend at the age of 84. And the last few years were not kind to Bill. He had Alzheimer's, so he wasn't quite himself at the end. This was one of the sharpest guys, a man of faith. The story with his daughter and the quarterback who ended up having a child and how they all embraced it as a family, because this guy was a very religious man and had to accept the way life had thrown things at him and overcame all of that, and really, truly a great story. He was a terrific coach, obviously. He changed the Colorado program all the way around, and again, they went to the Orange Bowl one year. We're 11-0, and I think it was Notre Dame that beat them. And then the next year, they ended up beating Notre Dame in another game like that and shared with Georgia Tech a national title. I can't remember the year, but Bill McCartney was an outstanding coach, an outstanding human being, and he passed away at the age of 84. On Mondays, we do a things called Precious Metals. They are brought to you by Southern Security. Easy for you to say. Southern Security is your home team credit union. They've been voted the best credit union in the area for the last 6 years. They're working on 7. And look, they've been great for 75 years. That's how long they've been around. They have been trusted as a financial partner for just about every person in every walk of life. They have really been around helping people that long. And they would love it if you're a small business owner. If you're buying your first home, they would love to be involved with you. And it's easy to do. All you got to do is either go to southernsecurity.org or give them a call. You can talk to a human being at 901-452-7900. Always the best rates, always the best service, always the new technology. They are Southern Security, your home team credit union, federally insured by NCUA. So let's get to the good and the bad. I got lots of medals today. I'm going to give a bronze to P.J. Haggerty to the rescue again. Down the stretch, just give him the ball because he can assist it, which he did on a beautiful play by Tyrese Hunter, or he can score it. He can score it going inside, but more importantly, when he goes inside, they don't want him to shoot. They know he's dead-eye. They foul him. So what was he in the game that he rescued the Tigers against ECU? From the free throw line, Brian Takis, he was a perfect 10 for 10. Just give him the ball. You know
That's
he's
right.
getting the ball.
Yeah. And you know he's going to draw a foul.
I thought Penny Hardaway said a great thing about it. He said something to the effect that they are trying to take Haggerty out of the game. They put 2 people on him. They put 3 people on him. Doesn't matter. He figures out the pass or the path to get to the hole, and if you foul him, he is dead-eye at the line. Last year, he had 303 attempts. That was tops in the nation.
Wow.
And he makes them, now he's shooting 83%, maybe higher as he went 10 for 10. He's really a joy to watch. Ja is too. He was having a terrible game. He was 5 of 19 in Minnesota, where the Grizz hadn't won in a couple of years. What does he do? At the end, winning time, he comes through, just like P.J. Haggerty. Ja ends up with a couple of assists down the stretch and then a floater over Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. 2 or 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He beats them both with a floater. It goes in. They win the game. Man, he is, like P.J., ice water in the vein, but when it's time to win a game, he could be 5 of 19. It doesn't bother him. He just goes, okay, now I'll get my act together. And he did. He gets a bronze as well. A silver medal to Ohio State, outlasting Texas in the Cotton Bowl. This was a really good game because it looked like I thought Texas was going to come back and tie the game. I thought, man, we're going to get a overtime in playoff here. Wow. And then the Ohio State defense got tough. And then, because you had a 1st and goal at the 1. At the 1. And then it's 3rd down and 8. And then there's a strip sack. And then there's a return by a young man named Jack Sawyer, who gets a silver medal as well, who then runs 83 yards, and he's from Columbus, Ohio. This is his hometown, his home team. He's been a great player for them for all these years, and this is how he comes through. As they said, he will now be a legend forever with that particular play, and they end up winning by 2 touchdowns. And now they are 8-point favorites against Notre Dame in the college football title game. I've got to give Novak Djokovic a silver medal. He won his 378th major match. Now, it's a first rounder, but 378 matches he has won in Grand Slam events. That's just incredible. This one was over, remember the name, Nishisa Basavareddy. He's a kid that left Stanford to become a pro.
Oh, wow.
He's a good player, and he's only 20. And he actually won the first set over Djokovic. It's the first time he's played in a major. So that was pretty impressive. But this was another first-round performance. You know the last time Djokovic lost a first-round match in a major?
Got to be a while.
2006.
Holy cow.
Crazy.
That's insane.
And then my gold, I talked about how lucky they are, but come on, Jalen Daniels is so good. He's Rookie of the Year.
He's been great.
304 total yards, big plays every time you need it. And they won their first playoff game since, it's a magic number. Same thing as Joker. 2006. 19 years ago, they last won a playoff game until they doinked it off the upright.
Yeah, that was incredible the way they won that game last night. Well, I have a handful for each day, so I'll start with my bronze. My first bronze has to go to the Memphis Tigers that remained undefeated in conference play. It was scary. It wasn't easy. It didn't look pretty, but they got the win at the end of the day. Just win, just win these games.
It's hard
and you'll
to give
be
that
fine.
a medal.
Hell, I'll give them a bronze. That's why we're giving them a bronze. It's the lowest medal you can get. But hey, Dave, we're winning games. That's what you need to do. The goal of the game, win. And that's what the Tigers did on Saturday against East Carolina. My other bronze medal goes to, and I don't know if you saw this, they actually brought this up. I did not know about it until last night when I was watching News Channel 3, I believe it was, that brought it up. They were doing their sports segment, and they talked about the Sony Open, and a young fella, Jackson Suber, I believe is his name, an Ole Miss graduate, finished his first event on the PGA Tour, T6 this weekend in Hawaii.
Tied for six,
very impressive.
Which means if I don't know what his eligibility status is, but if you finish, I want to say top 8 or top 10, you get instant eligibility for the next tournament.
Oh, wow.
I think the next tournament's actually at Pebble Beach. So that guy has earned
Good
his
for him.
way to go play at the famed Pebble Beach.
Should have given him better than a bronze. Wow, shame on me. But he gets a bronze. What a performance by him in his first PGA Tour event. My silver medals, I got to give a silver to the Detroit Pistons. Dave, do you remember last year when the Detroit Pistons were the laughingstock of the NBA? They were losing pretty much every game they played. Well, now they've really turned things around. They're one game over 500 currently, and they've won 6 of their last 7. J.B. Bickerstaff, his first year as the head coach for the Detroit Pistons. They've got a lot of young guys, including former Memphis Tiger Jalen Duren, who has been playing really well for them. Cade Cunningham has been great. They've been playing really good basketball and are really fun to watch, so I got to give them a silver. My other silver goes to the Kentucky Wildcats, who picked up a big road victory on the road against Mississippi State.
I was surprised at that. I really was.
I think 4.5-point underdogs on the road. Mississippi State, we saw it firsthand how tough that Mississippi State defense is. So really impressive that Kentucky, after losing on the road to Georgia the previous game, that they could go on the road and get a big win like that against Mississippi State.
That thing is so tough. I don't know if you listened, but Josh Pastner was saying how
I can't believe I missed it. I walked in and found out he was on.
In the bracketology of Lenardi this week, the top 2 seed lines, 8 teams, right? 5 are from the SEC, which is absolutely astonishing.
That's crazy.
And if you look at the SEC ratings, or the standings, I should say, there's only 3 undefeated. Alabama and Auburn. I can't wait till they play. You know who the other team is? It's Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's Ole Miss.
That's right. Yeah, Ole Miss has been playing some really good basketball, and really that conference as a whole has been playing really, really well as a whole. They've been so much fun to watch. So those are my silvers, and then my golds. I got to give one to the Commanders for just what they've been doing with a rookie quarterback. John Harden had a stat on Friday about rookie quarterbacks in playoff games against the spread. They were like 19-31 or something like that.
That makes sense.
Against the spread, just really, really bad. But Jane Daniels and that team, they added a win to that column. So good for them. The way they wanted a doink win was really fun to watch. So they get a gold medal. For me, the Texans get a gold medal. I don't think many people thought they were going to win that game against the Chargers. Everyone was saying, well, they're not as good as they were last year.
Well, that defense was
CJ
really
Stroud, that defense was great on Saturday, and they pulled the big upset over the Chargers, so they get a gold medal.
You think anybody had Justin Herbert with 4 interceptions?
No,
Do
certainly
you
not.
realize that's more?
Certainly not.
That's one more than he had all year?
Wow, that's incredible. I saw somebody on Twitter put out their best bet for the day was Justin Herbert to not throw an interception, and then he threw 4. So
That's just crazy.
That's not a good bet for whoever put that one out. 2 more golds to give out. The Grizzlies get a gold. That game against the Timberwolves was one of the more fun games I've watched this season in the NBA. Just how it was going back and forth, and then the way Ja Morant was able to end that game with some really tough shots at the end. They get a gold medal. And then Cooper Flagg gets my final gold medal. Dave, over the weekend against Notre Dame, he put up 42 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds. He is playing really, really well right now. I was talking last week. It doesn't feel like he's getting as much hype as Zion did when he was at Duke. Now, obviously, very different players. Zion was made for the highlight reels because he played above the rim. He was the high flyer, all those dunks.
Freak.
He's a freak. And Cooper Flagg's just more of an all-around great player. And so it's kind of hard to kind of have that same hype. But you look at what he's doing, 19.1 points per game, 8.3 rebounds per game, almost 4 assists per game, shooting 38% from the field. He's playing really well. That Duke team is really, really fun to watch because they have several freshmen that will probably go in the first round of the NBA
draft. It's funny that you say that because I have in my notes for Mike to ask him about that because not just the 42 against Duke, the Zion-like dunk
that's right.
over Pittsburgh.
That was really the first viral highlight we had of him this year.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to talk with him about as well. All right, let's get to the bad. Let's get to the rust. I have 2. We'll start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's hard to give a rust for this, but it is true. The Pittsburgh Steelers tied a record yesterday, a playoff record. So to get to the playoffs is pretty good. And the Steelers have done that. They have never been under 500 under Mike Tomlin, which is amazing,
That is amazing.
for all the years that he's been there. But in their loss, 28-14 to Baltimore yesterday, that is their 6th straight playoff loss. In other words, they made the playoffs the last 6 years. They've lost in the first round the last 6 years. That ties an NFL record.
Crazy.
That's one rust. Here's the best rust, though.
Okay.
Do you know what the biggest bet was yesterday of all the Sunday games?
I do not.
The biggest bet was the Philadelphia Eagles running back, Saquon Barkley, the man with over 2,000 yards in the regular season. The bet was that he would score a touchdown. It was the most bet item in all of the playoff games yesterday on Sunday. He breaks through at the end of the game with a clear field to score a touchdown. But if he slides, game's over. What does Saquon Barkley do? He's a team guy.
That's right.
He slides, first down, they win the game, bettors lose everything.
Oh, that's awful. That is awful. I did see people posting about that last night. Oh, that is a tough way to lose a bet. Dave, the only rust I have today is this story coming out of Louisiana over the weekend. The LSU wide receiver Kyron Lacy, who is declared for the NFL draft, I think it came out either Thursday or Friday morning that a warrant had been put out for his arrest.
Yes.
Because he was, they were looking at him in a negligent homicide and felony hit and run with death and reckless operation of a vehicle. He turned himself in, I believe, on Friday. It says the story I read on ESPN. The police on Friday said that they had been in contact with Lacy and his attorney to turn himself in. He ended up turning himself in and was released on a $151,000 bail. But, I mean, just this story, I mean, after a really good season, had declared for the draft, but it says he was out, I believe, early or middle of December, was out in his 2023 Dodge Charger on Louisiana Highway 20 and, quote, recklessly passed multiple vehicles at a high rate of speed by crossing the center line and entering the northbound lane while in a designated no passing zone, and then ran into the other vehicle and unfortunately killed the driver of that other vehicle. So really sad.
And then fled the scene.
And then fled the scene. So just a really, really sad and really bad situation down in Baton Rouge.
That is the end of his career.
Yeah.
I would have to assume. Those are all the medals. They are good and they are bad. We take a break. When we come back, we head to Pittsburgh. That's where Mike DeCourcy, our Hall of Famer, lives, and college basketball is front and center. That comes your way momentarily.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, Automatic Gates Construction tailors custom gate solutions for all your residential, commercial, and industrial needs, including repairs, maintenance, and installation. Automatic Gates Construction specializes in designing and installing automatic gates and fencing that seamlessly blends security, functionality, and aesthetic appeal. Elevate the safety and efficiency of your property with a premium gate solution. Automatic Gates Construction at myautomaticgates.com.
Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one, even if it's not with Progressive. Way more confident than you were when you tried. Stuff. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you. Progressive agents will need to
Do you know one of the best things you can do for your employees or family's health? Provide Arctic Clear bottled water. Arctic Clear bottled water is your locally owned and operated bottled water provider. Arctic Clear is 100% natural spring water with free delivery instead of dependable service and no long-term contracts. An easy choice. Call Jeff Metis today at 382-2363 or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear bottled water. Call them 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
Welcome back into the Family Leisure Studios, and a reminder, the floor model sale in full swing, where all the 24 inventory, there's still some. It's got to go because the 25 is coming in. All the floor models are on sale, up to as much as 50% off. Cold plunge tubs, they start at under $5,000. The hot tubs, you can get up to $3,000 off. Pool tables, arcades, peak pug tables, air, hockey, foosball, all 20% or more off. All you got to do is get to I-40 and Wooden Road. There's always a sale. This one's on floor model sales right now, and it's a pretty good one at Family Leisure. We head to Pittsburgh, and our Hall of Famer from the Sporting News, Mike DeCourcy, joins us now. I can understand some easy things. I can even, in deep analytics, I can understand offensive efficiency when they're saying it's like points per 100 possessions. I can get that. Explain to me, what is wins above bubble? Good morning.
Yeah, it is a formula like Ken Palm or like T-Rank or K. There are a number of different metrics that are important to college basketball and the NCAA tournament selection process. And if you look at, let's use the Tigers as an example, their team sheet, what the committee would see if they were getting together today, it'll obviously not happen until the second week of March. But if they were getting together today and they were to say, okay, what's up with the Tigers? They'd look at each person on the committee would be able to punch up the Tigers team sheet. And on that sheet would be a breakdown of two different kinds of metrics, the predictive metrics and the result metrics. And predictive metrics, they include margin of victory. How do you win? Do you blow teams out? Do you dominate them? The efficiency that you talked about before, that's in the Ken Palm rankings and all of that. That is a predictive metric, and it tells you how powerful the team is. The result metrics, there are three of them that are on the team sheet, and one of them is called KPI. It's done by a friend of mine named Kevin Pauga, who works at Michigan State. Another is called strength of record, which ESPN does not only for college basketball but also college football. And then there's the one that you're enjoying here, wins above bubble. And the design there is meant to convey how many more wins do you have than a normal bubble team would have against the same schedule. And where you rank in that is really what the number is. How many it would be isn't so important. They could drill down on that if they wanted. But what matters most is the rank. Where do you rank among those teams? And again, if you get 31-point wins over teams that are good, over teams that are predominantly good or on the better side of average, you're going to have a phenomenal wins above bubble number. You're not necessarily going to have a great KenPom number or BPI number because those are about power. So that's the idea behind the wins above bubble. And in the past, there were only two numbers under result metrics. They only had two on the team sheets, KPI and strength of record. So WAB is a new one that's been added for this year, and I think it was important that they do that because, one, there shouldn't be an imbalance between the predictive and result metrics, especially when it should probably lean more toward the result metrics. They shouldn't be worrying about how many teams you beat by 30. Mm-hmm. They should be worrying about how many wins do you get against quality opposition.
I agree.
And honestly, if you look at it, the oddity of this is that when they put together the net in 2018, I believe, it was suggested to them that they should not use a predictive metric at the core of their process. It was suggested by the king of predictive metrics, Ken Pomeroy. I was sitting right next to him when he said that it was not ideal to do that. But they didn't listen to that. The net is a predictive metric. So your net number is a predictive, and that's why the Tigers rank only 36.
Right.
That's not been their MO has not been to blow teams out as we saw on Saturday. But their KPI number is 3. Their strength of record is 11, and their wins above bubble is 10. So they're high. They have a great result metric. So what that says is you got to keep doing this to keep those numbers. Whether you win by 1 or 15, you got to keep doing that. You can't lose those games like they sort of put out there for the taking on Saturday. It was not a great performance.
No.
You got to win those games if you're going to do that. But if you keep doing it, they're going to respect it.
I'm a big ratio guy. I have been for 10 years. I don't think, and I was just saying this to Brian, we haven't had time to do the homework here, but I would bet you if you look at the top 25, there's maybe 3 or 4 that are under with a negative ratio as opposed to a positive ratio. Turnovers are possessions that are lost.
Right.
And Memphis is a very poor ratio. I guarantee you it's the worst in the top 25. I'm curious what your thought of ratio is in identifying good teams.
When you say ratio, you're strictly referring to what?
Assist to turnovers.
Assist to turnover.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think assist turnover is an interesting number, and it's one that honestly, it usually is used to judge players more so than teams. It's interesting that that's something that you use a lot. Like if you look on KenPom, if you subscribe to KenPom, $20-some bucks. So, if you really love the sport,
right, it's
worth that because it tells you so many things quickly at a glance. And again, it doesn't cost a ton. I don't see assist turnover ratio as a number on his scouting report.
No, but in when I do my charts for all the games, men or women's games, whatever it may be,
right,
I always put down assists per game, and I put down turnovers per game. And good teams, almost always, even in the women's game, which is predominantly a negative ratio for teams, The good teams are always positive ratio. Just something to look at. Not a deep analytic thing. It's pretty easy. But
Yeah.
if you have a bunch of assists, it means you're working together as a team.
Right.
If you've got a bunch of turnovers, it means you're not playing well as a team, and you give away possessions and opportunities to score. So if you're not a good defensive team and you got a negative ratio, you're in trouble.
The flaw that exists in your calculation or your assessment is that poor shot selection is almost a hidden turnover if you think about it.
Sure, I agree with that.
So that's why the points per possession kind of encapsulates what you're saying, and is maybe more effective because of that. Because I mean, I did a piece on the pregame show. We had USC and Illinois on our air on Saturday at the Big Ten Network. So we did a pregame show, and I took one possession out of USC's game against Michigan, on which they got 3 offensive rebounds and took 4 terrible shots. And I said, this is a problem. This is why they're not good yet. This is why SC is struggling, because they are not taking quality shots. And then they came out against Illinois and played nearly perfectly. And after the game, Eric Musselman said, we've had a problem with shot quality. So that's an important component of an offense. And again, I think some of that also does get baked back into what you're saying, because if you have a lot of assists, your offense is flowing pretty well. You're getting good passes to quality shots and converting them. So I think there is definite truth in what you're saying. I prefer points per possession because it adds in how smart you are with the shots you take.
There was an interesting story in the Daily Memphian. Partha Pajai came up with this thing on PJ Haggerty. Have you heard of? It's an app and a website called My NIL Pay. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I've not heard of that.
All right, listen, this is crazy. So this guy who has this has made a national website with an app where fans can give NIL and they get back a digital autograph and some other digital rewards, because you got to have that for giving to a particular player. But this is strictly straight to a player. 500,000 athletes from all Division I, II, men and women, they are on this website. And he evaluates all these players. So P.J. Haggerty is valued, his valuation is $1.7 million. That's number 6 in basketball and number 36 overall. It's just amazing to me where we have gotten with this. And then there's stories about the Dartmouth and the USC unionization attempts all sort of going away. We still are going to have a revenue share here thing. Where are we going with all this, Mike DeCourcy?
Well, we are certainly going to where athletes are paid for performance, and however else you want to frame that linguistically, it's the reality. I think we're really already there, but it will be emphatically there when the revenue share comes in. But I understand why the universities are reluctant to embrace the concept of employer-employee. I would be in no hurry for that, and frankly, I'll be honest with you. If I'm an athlete, I don't want it either.
I don't either. I love it the way it is right now.
Yes. This is the sweet spot for the athlete. Yes, you can be taken advantage of. So, yeah, you got to watch your back. But that's not to say that you can't be taken advantage of in a union circumstance either, because we've seen that happen with a union in place. Now, they may be able to do more to fight for you, but in the end, if you were to get in a bad situation, you're probably in that bad situation just with better defenses from a players' organization. But right now they have more power than probably any athletes in any sport do, because of that ability to transfer and compete immediately. They are able to basically renegotiate after every year, and that certainly has its cost as well if you have a bad year. But in the nature of Division I basketball, there's always someone that, given that there's 360 teams, there's always someone who's going to value you. It's just a question of by how much.
I thought it was very interesting, too, that Rick Barnes, in a post-game press conference, actually stated what he told his player, Chaz Lanier, when he did not finish by the way it was drawn up, a play where the Vols got the ball to their leading scorer and Lanier did not take the shot. He pulled Chaz Lanier, Rick Barnes did, and as he was pulling him, and he said this was the direct quote in the press conference, if you don't do what we draw up, if you don't do what we're paying you for, you're going to sit right in here with me. Wow. We're saying what we're paying for.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the interesting things that about, we've been talking a lot about language. And I have always really struggled. It's one of those things that gives me like almost an allergic reaction. When an analyst or a play-by-play person would say, describing what happened there as Lanier needs to be more selfish. No. That's the worst language you can use. Anytime an athlete is selfish, that's a bad thing. It's always a bad thing. But if they draw up a shot for you, or a shot naturally comes from the flow of the offense, and you're a 38% or better 3-point shooter, and you're wide open, and you don't take it, that is selfish. That's you saying, if I make this, I'm going to look bad. If I miss this, I'm going to look bad. So I don't want to do that. But it's your job. It's Chaz Lanier's job, even if he weren't paid. It's his job as a member of that particular team to take quality shots when they're created for him or when they come to him, because he's a scorer. He's their number one option. He's got to take every shot that's created for him, and that's because that's why they do it, because he's the best qualified to do that. Like, I don't write a lot about the NBA because we have Steph No to do that, and it's his job to write about the NBA. My job is to write about the NFL, college sports, soccer, and primarily college basketball. So if there's a big story in college basketball and I pass, it's my fault that I don't get it done, because it's my job to do that. It's the same for a basketball player who is a primary scorer. When there are shots created for you specifically or organically, you have to take that shot, and it is not a selfish play. It's a selfish play to pass on.
Last thing, how good is Cooper Flagg? I bring this up. We've talked a little bit about him before, but he had that 42 performance against Duke. The game before that, he had a Zion-like dunk over Pittsburgh. That was pretty impressive. You've made statements, Greg Odom comes to my mind, about potential with certain players. You never saw Victor Wembanyama unless you were watching a pro game in Europe. Is Cooper Flagg going to be the next big thing?
Well, I did see Victor play for the U19 in the World Cup, not in person, but on
TV,
on my computer, TV, whatever. And I was very impressed. You could see what he could bring and what the struggles are. But he's a phenomenal talent. Look, I don't think Cooper Flagg is a Wembanyama level talent because he's not 7'4", but he is a complete basketball prospect. There are very few holes, if any, in his game. He's a great passer. He understands the game at a high level. He's probably a B+ ball handler and got to work on getting to A. He's probably a B+ deep shooter and has to work on getting to A. But again, B+ isn't bad.
No.
There's so much that he brings, and one of the things that I noticed when I was at the Auburn game at Cameron earlier in December, he's one of those rebounders, like a Silas or a Rodman or somebody like that knows where it's coming and gets there. The difference between him and Silas is the dynamism to get there. The difference between him and Rodman is he's a little bit less high maintenance. He's a phenomenal player in so many ways. I've referred to him as the best American prospect since at least Anthony Davis. I wrote about that when he committed to Duke, and I haven't seen anything in the Duke uniform that suggests I was wrong about that.
He's our Hall of Famer, Mike DeCourcy. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it, and we will chat next week.
Sounds great, Dave.
Bye-bye. That's Mike DeCourcy. We take a break. When we come back to Atlanta, we will travel and we'll talk to our coach, John Thompson, the college football championship game and what we saw in the semis. That comes your way in a minute.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
You know, sometimes I wish I had a gun.
Well, I'm armed, but before I bought one, I still went to Top Gun Academy to learn to protect myself without a gun.
How is that possible?
Top Gun's personal protection training. It's perfect if you want to protect yourself without firearms.
I don't know.
And it's perfect if you feel the need to carry a gun for self-defense, because the last thing you really want to do is shoot.
That is scary.
Not at Top Gun. It's very comfortable, and you learn to load, handle, and shoot a handgun safely. Protect yourself. Go to Top Gun Academy. They're at 2770 Winton Road.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. Five Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. Five Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five Ash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you. Take your basketball skills to the next level at Shoot 360 Memphis. Shoot 360 is a revolutionary basketball training facility that combines cutting-edge technology with gamification and provides instant objective feedback, hands-on, one-on-one expert coaching. And now, introducing Shoot 360 for you, a newly renovated 50,000 square foot facility with 2 NBA regulation-sized courts, 3 high school-sized courts, and 4 shooting bays with Shoot 360 technology. Memberships are now on a monthly basis. And you can become a member in both locations. Whether you're an aspiring young talent, NBA player, or looking for a unique workout, all skill levels are welcome at Shoot 360 Memphis to learn proper shooting and passing techniques, improve fundamentals, and gain a competitive edge while having fun. Shoot 360 Memphis now in Cordova and Collierville. Call them today at 901-779-3176. That's 901-779-3176. The future of basketball training is here. Shoot 360 Memphis.
Let's head to Atlanta. Our coach, John Thompson, standing by. We only got him for a few more weeks. All right, Coach, Penn State, Notre Dame, then Texas and Ohio State. I thought both playoff games were good. They were intriguing. I'm sure the numbers were pretty good on these games as far as television ratings go. But let's begin with Penn State and Notre Dame. That one back and forth. And unfortunately for Penn State and their quarterback, Drew Aller, you know, they were winning the turnover battle. And I thought that was going to be the difference in the game. But Aller threw a bad pick at the wrong time, at the wrong place. That's really the difference in this game, which allows Notre Dame, after the one loss to NIU, to keep their winning streak going and make it into the college football finals. So your thoughts. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How you doing?
Excellent.
Did you make a snowman?
No, I didn't even do a snow angel, but I did get to work on Friday when everybody else was staying
Good for
home.
You know, you got to think that Marcus Freeman has done the best job. All of these guys have done a great job, obviously, to even get in last week's semifinals. But Marcus, I think, has done a unbelievable job in getting his team there.
You think he'd be a good pro coach? Because I guess the Bears are talking to him. Yeah,
I don't know. He seems. I don't know him personally, but I've got a good friend that played for him and has been around him. I think he's more relational than the typical pro coach. I think he's just done a very good job in that culture, which is tough. I mean, when you got Newt Rockney and you got Jerry Faust and Lou Holtz, and now you the different guys that have come through there, and without being in a conference, and I know that's raising a little bit of issue there, but I think that's a tough deal. Now,
I don't know that I'd put Jerry Faust in the same league with Newt Rockney.
We played him one time when he was at Akron, and our guys, the school that I was at the time, were barking at him in pregame, and he came to our locker room and begged, and might have had a tear in his eye. And I hate to talk about a guy who's passed away, but might have had a tear in his eye, and he was intimidated because our players barked at him, and
Wow.
we beat the heck out of him during the game. He was at Akron at the time. So anyway, but going back, what game were we talking about? Notre Dame and Penn State,
and the Aller pick at the wrong time.
Yeah, and all of that was going to come down to one play. I mean, there were some guys. You got Ahmad Carter that was playing with one arm. I mean, really, they put him on the left side. He hadn't played on the left side hardly all year long, and he was dipping and putting pressure on him. Penn State did a heck of a job. So anyway, I'm jumping all around on different teams, but I think we got a big one coming up. This is going to be a great ball game on whatever night it is next week.
We'll get to the Ohio State game in a second. I want to go back one more time. When Aller throws that pick, there are some people, many people actually, that have taken shots at James Franklin because Aller did not have a great night. He was moving the team. He did a lot of different things, but he was 12 of 23 for only 135 yards. He missed a guy wide open in the first half that would have been a touchdown that ended up being a field goal, I believe. But
wasn't that on the pass interference also? They had that. I think
this one was he threw. There was a guy wide open at the 2-yard line. He threw behind him and low and missed it.
Okay,
but they're taking shots at Franklin for even calling to try to win the game. That they should have just run the ball and not tried to throw the ball in that position. I don't agree with that, but it all comes back to you can't win the big game.
Well, people are going to take shots at coaches that lose all the time. That's part of it. And in the game, in the heat, when you're right there, you're thinking about so many things. You're thinking about the time on the clock, the momentum, how are your quarterbacks playing, what they're playing on defense, what can you do to get down there? And then, the guys got them in the semifinals for the national championship. So I don't think he was playing. Maybe he might have been dinged a little bit, but I can't see him playing conservative at that time. But Penn and really in the first half, Penn State was winning the line of scrimmage. They were giving him protection and running the football really well. So I'm not sure about that. But what did happen in there is you had some guys that made some big time plays.
All right, and then you've got another thriller, Texas and Ohio State, it looks like to me. Texas is going to march on down, tie this game. We're going to go to overtime. They get a first and goal at the 1, can't get it in. And then on third down, they've already been knocked back a little bit on a call on a sweep that some people have given some heat to Steve Sarkisian about. The famous now Jack Sawyer scoop and score 83-yard defensive play.
Greatest play in football. Not just that one, I'm saying, but sack, cause fumble, scoop and score can't be a better play in football.
Especially if you're a defensive coach like you.
Well, especially that you're going to point that out when we do all of that. But no, what turned the game completely on its head. I mean, that gave them a 2-score lead. But there were some other things in that game that is going to affect this other one. That Notre Dame lost their tackle lost their left tackle early in the second quarter. Now, if he comes back now, and here's another thing that I don't think people have really realized, that when Leonard came out of the game right at the end of the first half, I believe,
Yeah.
he started. He was headed to the Penn State sideline. They had to grab him and turn him the other way. I don't know if I hadn't seen anybody say anything about that, but I would suspect they're being very cautious with him right now. But he made some huge plays in that game, and I think he's a big time guy. But it's going to be something. That game is going to be something. I'm trying to hold back because I want to talk about and how well Caleb Downs for Ohio State played. Also, what a stud that guy is. Do
you agree with the line? It's 8 points that Ohio State is favored over the Irish.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. Notre Dame is playing so well. Right now, I'm batting 100. Right, I hadn't missed anybody in the playoffs the way I've got it figured on here. So I'm gonna hold off until next week till I make my choice.
I love it.
But there's some things that are going to have to happen for either team to win. I'll be more ready for that. I've kind of forgotten about the two games last week. Let's talk about what's current. What about our boy Carson Beck?
All right, you're in that neck of the woods down in Atlanta. Carson Beck was saying goodbye to Georgia because he was going to enter the NFL draft. Suddenly he changes his mind. I wonder for how much money. Changes his mind, goes into the portal, and ends up in Miami. Are you surprised?
Okay, a little background on this thing. Now, there are certain things in the world, especially involved when you involve men that are undefeated. Carson Beck is, I don't know if he's engaged or is just his girlfriend. Serious TikTok playing basketball girl. You know where she goes to school?
No.
Miami.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. It was also, and we're going TMZ right here. That was a distraction for their team this year. So you got a girl that may be enough. I mean, because that's as we said, that has never lost. That has never lost. So, and if that was a distraction and $4 million, so that was a problem. I think that had a little bit of waves that trickled through the team towards the end of the season with the attention that was that he was giving her, or the attention that was being given to them, and it was a definite distraction to the Georgia program.
So, in the long run, you think Kirby Smart is okay, that Beck is gone and he's just going to reload?
You have to be now because there's nobody that is that's sacred on your team anymore. The money is unbelievable. The quarterback at Tulane, the quarterback, at Georgia that says he's coming out for the NFL, and then he goes for $4 million.
Yeah, because he could. You know what?
What are we teaching these kids, man? Come on.
With the salary caps for rookies, you couldn't make $4 million. He's actually going to make more in college than he could make in the pros. John, as always, we appreciate it. We'll talk championship game next Monday.
Appreciate it. We can zero in on it.
I love it.
Take care.
Thank you. That's our coach, John Thompson, down in Atlanta.
Dave,
He's brought to you by
I have
Bryan
your
City.
answer.
Okay.
Memphis, the only team with a negative assist turnover
You
ratio.
looked it up?
I sure did.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what I've been doing over here.
You are the best.
What can I say?
How about that? I knew it.
Yeah. Negative 0.8.
That's got to get better.
It's got to.
They cannot go into the NCAA tournament and have more turnovers.
And
can't have 15 turnovers.
And that's
in a
how
game.
you slip up in one of these conference
games.
games.
Well, that's what almost undid
exactly
them against East Carolina. There's no question. They can't. Let me tell you, they go to Philly. They go to Philly. What is there? I wrote down there. I think it's like 120.
Yeah.
They go to Philly and they turn the ball over 15, 16, 17 times.
That's a loss.
They're not going to win the game.
No,
Promise you, they won't win the game. They got to be better at that. This final portion of the show brought to you by Grind City Brewing and that Gator Patrol, that wonderful tangerine cream sour. If you haven't tried it yet, please give it a chance. Sweet, tart, refreshing. It's got a little fruited taste to it. It's a little tangerine-y, I guess you could say, bright and juicy. That's what they call it. And then it is balanced by a subtle hint of cream. It's really a good thing. Or check out the beers, whatever you want. Grind City Brewing downtown with that wonderful modern facility, the brewery, and the great grounds that are a concert venue on occasion. This place is a taste of Memphis. Go check it out. Grind City Brewing. We'll check you out tomorrow morning. Usual suspects. Have a great day, everybody. Johnny Radio is next.